All right, we got a fresh show for you guys tonight. We got a great docket, great stuff going on. All right, Monday, it was Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Hope you had a good Labor Day weekend. Welcome back to Comics Cuts. Tonight, we're going to be getting into, we got a lot of DC stuff finally. I feel like it's been a minute since we've had a good DC worthy docket. So we're going to be talking about my theory, which I really kind of got from Slav on Batman, why I don't think Batman's going to debut in Peacemaker, and everyone saying that the Batman 2 script is great. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the story inspiration for Green Lantern, Return to Oa, and we're going to be talking about some details we've gotten about Lanterns. We're going to be talking about some Lanterns castings, some James Gunn updates on Batman, the Brave and the Bold, and then we're going to be talking about Marvel. We have a lot of good stuff to get into as usual. We're going to be talking about Steve and Doctor Doom. We're going to be talking about what Simu Liu, Shang-Chi has been saying about the movie. We're going to be talking about Paul Rudd and his comments about the movie and some of the other upcoming big rumors around and theories around Avengers Doomsday. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so I saw a video about a week ago that had me kind of convinced that Batman was going to make his appearance in Peacemaker. And I sent the video to Slav, and Slav made a really good point. The video I saw was from Variant Comics, and the short of it is James Gunn has been saying, there are going to be some big cameos and to get excited. And I'm sure there are going to be big cameos. But once I spoke to Slav made a really good point that I failed to see on my own. So props to Slav. And Slav said, Batman's not going to debut in Peacemaker because it's an adult-rated show. And they're not going to do that big of a debut where they want everyone to see it in an adult-rated show. And that just made so much sense. And I was kind of disappointed in myself for not coming to that conclusion on my own because it's fairly simple. But, Slav, as always, ahead of the curve, smart guy. So props to him on that. Okay. Now on the Batman 2, everyone's saying that this script is great, right? Everyone's saying that the Batman 2 script is great and filming is beginning in April 2026. So realistically, if the movie is filming in April in 2026, which I don't know why they're not filming it now, but whatever, I'm sure pre-production is going to take time, but April 2026 is like 8 months away. That's a long time for pre-production. So listen, April 2026, Hungary, if you're in here, I think you'll be happy to know. I think they're going to be able to make the December 2027 date. If they're going to be filming by April 2026, they should be making that date. But if I were James Gunn, I would want them to be filming right away because this thing has went through so many delays. I would want to be giving myself as much room as possible, and waiting to film until April 2026 just sounds like a really long time. So there is this rumor going on about, I saw this today, okay? And there's this book called Green Lantern, Return to Oa. And the rumor is that this is the story that's going to be inspiring Lanterns. Okay? Now, a couple things. I know everyone wants Blackest Night. We're not getting Blackest Night for a while. They're going to need to build up to that. But I had never heard of this story, okay? I've never heard of this comic book. I couldn't find it on DC Universe Infinite. I couldn't find it on Global Comics. The only place I found it was the single issue on eBay. And if you know anything about reading comics, you can't just read a single issue. So I really want to read the story. But the rumor is that the reason that this that they're not promoting this story as the inspiration for Lanterns is that the writer for this, his name is Gerard Jones. Gerard Jones wrote this for DC in the 90s, but in like 2010, he got convicted of some really gross crimes. Think Jeffrey Epstein, okay? So I understand why DC wouldn't want to make that connection because they don't want to put a spotlight on the fact that one of their writers was convicted for such pretty much the most disgusting crimes you can commit. However, I still want to know what happened in the story because, now I have seen some people that I follow say they're kind of disappointed about this, that they don't really like this story. I don't know if it's that they don't like it or they don't know it because it's hard for me to say. I've never heard of it. I've never heard of this story up until today. Okay. But I did some research on the story. So here's what I'm going to tell you. So return to Oa. Hal Jordan returns to Oa to stop a rogue guardian who's gone insane and is kidnapping cities from across the galaxy to build a twisted utopia. Hal is trapped in illusions of a quiet life with Rose Hardin, but breaks free with help from Jon Stewart and Guy Gardner. Using Jon's psychic link to Appa, Hal overwhelms him emotionally, forcing him to lose control. The Guardians return, taking Appa into custody and rebuild the core and the central battery, restoring order. This sets the stage for Hal's renewed commitment to being a Green Lantern and leads into the future core storylines. So, it's not much to go off of to completely judge this story as an inspiration for Lanterns, but it does seem like it is a pretty expansive story. And, a couple weeks ago, I had made the point on Threads. Well, I made it on Twitter too, but the snowflakes found it on Threads that I said Supergirl should be the TV series and Lanterns should be the movie. Okay? That's what I said. And I'm sure you already know the kind of reaction I got from Threads, right? And people were like treating me like, I committed a cardinal sin. But the reason I said that, I think, is just because Green Lanterns, they're better characters. We got a Superman movie. I mean, come on. I shouldn't have to explain it. It's pretty obvious. So here's the thing. A lot of people made the point that, to do all of the Green Lantern lore, you can't do that in a movie. First of all, what movie have you ever watched that did an entire full set of lore for one character or one group of characters? There's no such thing. No one expects them to do that, right? But it does seem like they do want to do a series because they do want to expand on the lore. And we probably could get more lore out of a series than a movie just because there's more runtime. And we know it's going to be like a buddy cop TV show. And James Hawes, who's the director of Lanterns, he gave us an update. And he said, Chris Mundy and Damon Lindelof, have done things like Ozark, True Detective, and the script has got such wit, so much character, and it's like a buddy cop movie. True Detective, Fargo, No Country for Old Men, naturalistic. It's a buddy cop movie, and somebody flies. So the other part about the lore is supposedly this guy, his name is Garrett Dillahunt, is posted this to his Instagram story. And he is saying he's going to be playing the Black Hand. Now, for those of you that don't know about the Black Hand is one of the bigger Green Lantern's villains. And the Black Hand is like Death incarnate, and he is the main villain behind Blackest Night. So the fact that they have Parallax, Sinestro, Black Hand, we got a really good group of villains that are supposedly going to be in Lanterns. And the fact that we have all three of these is a huge, huge W. I don't think it could be overstated rather, how big of a deal this is. You know, Green Lantern has some of the best villains and some of the best lore in all of comics. And the fact that we're getting both Hal and John and these villains is just going to be incredible. It's going to blow people away. There are people that are comic book movie fans and they don't really know anything about Green Lantern. And I am telling you right now, they are going to watch this show and Hal and John are going to become two of their favorite characters of all time, period. So it's really awesome to see. And I just wish the show was coming out sooner. I got to tell you that. Listen, I'm enjoying Peacemaker. And Peacemaker's pretty cool. I like Peacemaker. I've read some of the Peacemaker comics over the years. But, you know, if you know me, you know I'm a diehard Green Lantern guy. So I can't wait for that. Okay. Now, what do we got next? Let's see. Okay. So now, James Gunn and DC, we have more on that. Now, James Gunn did also say that this logo was going to be staying on for DCU movies, and it's going to stay the same. He said for Elseworlds, it might vary, and it might be a little different. And this is exactly what he said. So someone basically asked him, have you considered changing the DC title bumper at the beginning of the projects? And he said, he's our MGM lion. And someone else followed up, isn't it changing for DC Elseworlds like the Batman stuff, or will it still be Superman? Yes, but it's not major. Okay. So I think this makes sense. They obviously want Superman to be the central character to the DCU. So it kind of makes sense. They started with Superman. Superman's the most iconic character. The other thing is, like, obviously I'm a bigger Batman guy, but Superman's just more colorful. Like, you look at this is going to look better than a photo of Batman would for the intro purposes. All right. Now, the other piece is that we finally got to see the map of Gotham from the Clayface set. And this is what the Gotham map looks like. And then there's the names of the cities. You could see there are different locations as well. There's Wayne Manors there, Ace Chemical, Iceberg Lounge, Wayne Tower, Clock Tower, Wayne Industries, Tri-Corner Yards. So I like that they are being very strategic and really focused on building this world. They're putting a lot of work into the details, and it feels like these are the kind of things that get skipped over a lot, especially in recent Marvel movies. Not to say that they had a map like Gotham to do, but it just seemed like projects were being made by people that weren't passionate about it to do something as extensive as putting a map together like this, you know? So I think that this is a really good sign as well. Okay. So James Gunn also confirmed that Barbara Gordon is going to be in Batman the Brave and the Bold. And he said, either way, she's also a ginger cool. Now, I would rather her be Oracle, okay? I just think Oracle is a better version of the character. I think Oracle is better utilized in stories than Batgirl. And if you're unaware, Oracle is the version of Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, who's in the wheelchair and works out of the clock tower to assist Batman and the Bat family on missions, you know, kind of like mission tech support. And then obviously Batgirl, she is in costume and is another suited superhero. I think she's a better version of herself and adds more to the story as Oracle. It's a much more unique position for someone in the Bat family. They've got like 8 Robins. Okay. We don't need another person in a suit assisting Batman on missions. So I always liked Oracle better. Some could say it's my preference. I think I'm right. If someone wants to argue me on it, I'd love to have you on the show to argue and debate because I'd win and make myself look smart. No, I'm just kidding, but not really. Yeah, Oracle. Oracle's a better character. Oracle is better fit for the DCU, especially considering we know that Batman's going to be working with Damian Wayne, Robin. Many are assuming that Nightwing is going to be there. I think Nightwing is going to be there. I mean, they did just bring up Bloodhaven in episode 1 of Peacemaker. So we know we're going to have Damian Wayne as Robin. It seems like we're going to have Dick Grayson as Nightwing. We don't need Batgirl along with Nightwing, Robin, and of course, Batman. So I think Oracle would be much cooler to see. And, a lot of people probably know Oracle because Oracle was in Arkham Knight. Remember, Oracle was in Arkham Knight, and you had to rescue her from, was it Penguin? I forget who it was. But, okay. All right, so now we got some good stuff on Marvel, the MCU, okay? So we're going to be talking about... So My Time to Shine tweeted out, if I understand correctly, Steve going back in time to be with Peggy created the incursions that killed Dr. Doom's family. Now, Doom is hunting Steve to kill him for what he did, manipulating everyone in his path to achieve it. And this is really interesting because we keep getting to this conversation about what Dr. Doom and Captain America are going to be doing in Avengers Doomsday, and how Dr. Doom is out for blood with Doomsday. Sorry, Hungry. Oh man, you missed all the good DC stuff. You know what though? I'll tell you what. At the end of the show, we'll go back to it so we could have you live chat with some of the good stuff because there's a lot of good stuff that I think you're going to be happy about. But anyway, so back to Dr. Doom and Captain America. So we keep getting back to what's going on with Dr. Doom and Captain America. And I think this tweet puts it up perfectly because Steve going back in time to be with Peggy apparently created the multiverse, not the incursions, because it wasn't that Steve went back in time to put the stones back, but the fact that he decided to stay with Peggy caused some disturbance in the time stream to apparently cause the incursion. And Dr. Doom is out for vengeance over this. What I don't understand is if this is the case, like, what does that solve? Like, you know, the incursions are already happening. Does going out for Captain America impact that? Now, here's another piece of the theory that I haven't seen anyone mention yet, okay? And this is the kind of commentary you could expect from me because I actually read the comics like an obsessive person because I'm obsessed with comics. And I have read the Kang Dynasty comics. Do you know who the final battle in Kang Dynasty was between? It was between Captain America and Kang. And it was like giant versions of them in the stars that were fighting in space. Unfortunately, I will say this. The story, I hated Kang Dynasty, okay? And I love Kang. I love Avengers comics. But the writer is such a bad writer that it was just trash. But what if they are pulling some of the conflict from Avengers Kang Dynasty to fold into the Time Runs Out saga from Hickman and get us to Secret Wars? Isn't that kind of interesting? So I think that might be something worth looking at because I think that Dr. Doom versus Captain America is going to be a big piece of Avengers Doomsday, but I also think that Iron Man could potentially be coming back in this movie, in the third Avengers movie, or more than likely Doctor Strange 3. And I do think it's going to be Reed Richards versus Doctor Doom in Secret Wars. That 100% I think is going to be the case. All right, let's see. All right, Hungry, I'm going to get to your DC comments when we get back to DC. All right, so Simu Liu, again, he's the guy who played Shang-Chi. He's now saying everyone will be blown away by Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Doctor Doom in Avengers Doomsday. He says, Robert Downey Jr. inspires him the most. He really inspires me. He's been an integral part of Marvel's success and has been in so many films over the years, yet he still takes the time to meet and connect with so many people. He's such a kind, generous, and inspiring person. I guarantee this, okay? Clip this, save this. I guarantee it. When Avengers Doomsday releases, the people who doubted Robert Downey Jr., Doctor Doom, Avengers Doomsday aren't going to admit that they doubted him for the most part, okay? Robert Downey Jr. is going to blow everyone away. And that's what they've been saying for a while. I think the Russos said that. I think Feige said that, you know, and they wouldn't have picked Robert Downey Jr. if they didn't think he was going to deliver. Like, come on. So I think that's going to happen. I think Simu Liu wouldn't say that. Yeah, I think he's going to be great. I really do. And I also wanted someone else for Doctor Doom. I really wanted Mads Mikkelsen. I really like Mads Mikkelsen. I think he's a phenomenal actor. I think he would have crushed it as Doom. But I'm more than happy with Robert Downey Jr., okay? Now, back to some of the theories in Avengers Doomsday. At Destination 23, D23, which is one of Disney's bigger promo events, Paul Rudd spoke, and Paul Rudd praised the jaw-dropping sets. Paul Rudd praised the jaw-dropping sets and incredible talent and thanked fans for their support. And he had also said before in a March 2025 interview that he said, they have my number. That's all I can say, joking about secrecy. Then during a cast reveal live stream, Paul Rudd had also joked about the emasculating tiny Ant-Man themed chair, keeping details secret. And the rumors from scoopers, specifically from Daniel RPK, is that Paul Rudd's Ant-Man will have an important role in Avengers Doomsday. Ant-Man may be the key to understanding and explaining the multiverse, echoing his Endgame time travel importance. Doctor Strange might play a villainous role in this film, according to related rumors. And the theory that gained traction after Rudd's prominent presence at D23 hinted at his elevated importance. So the interesting piece is, and I meant to have a photo, but I don't have the photo, but he, in the video release from D23 of Paul Rudd, he was wearing the same outfit. You remember that plaid shirt he wore in the post-credit scene of Ant-Man Quantumania? I loved Ant-Man Quantumania, okay? I actually love that movie. But it was like a strange post-credit scene. And he was like, you remember, he goes, and what was the line? It was, yeah. Will I be there when the Avengers need me? Absolutely. That was kind of corny. But whatever. He was like reading to a bunch of kids. So, anyway, I think there's a couple things going on here with Ant-Man. Number one, is Kang coming back? Because like Ant-Man, Kang, some strange castings going on. So a lot of people, I know Josh from Den of Nerds was talking about this. He thinks Kang is coming back. I would love to see it happen. But the other interesting piece is that, like, the time travel works a little differently in how Paul Rudd does it compared to the TVA. The TVA have a bit more freedom with their time traveling, but Paul Rudd's time traveling, remember when it was explained, your new, and the Hulk was explaining it, your new present becomes your past, because you can't go back on the same timeline and create and affect that timeline. You'd only create a new timeline. You can't just change a timeline. You can only create a new timeline. So that was really interesting. And I don't think that the plaid shirt thing was an accident. All of these things are so thought through, and like, I'm an overthinker. I think that's a good thing. It means I'm a really detailed and thorough thinker. And I promise you, Paul Rudd didn't wear that shirt without Kevin Feige signing off on it. I guarantee you. Okay. And they're trying to hint at us right now that there is some kind of connection between Quantumania and Avengers Doomsday, because otherwise he wouldn't be wearing the same exact outfit he wore in the post-credit scene. Okay. So I don't know what it means, but I'm starting to think that they're pulling more from Avengers Kang Dynasty into Avengers Doomsday. Okay. That's what I'm starting to think. And I don't know exactly what. I kind of want to reread Kang Dynasty to figure it out, except I fucking hate that story. I hate that story. It's not that the story's bad, okay? It's just that the writer sucks. He writes things and he makes them sound so corny that it's hard to enjoy it. And he actually got into a beef with Mark Millar over. That's a whole other story. You guys don't even care about that. So anyway, but Kang Dynasty, Doomsday, Secret Wars, and then there's the thing about the third movie. And I mentioned that last week. I posted about it on Threads. I have a post on it on Threads that got 1.3 million views, okay? I must have been the first person to throw it on Threads, okay? But I don't think it's going to be an Avengers titled movie, and I'll tell you why. As much as they're doing things right now that are unprecedented, like basically changing the title of Thunderbolts after its first weekend, and they're doing things that have never been done before, the one thing I don't see them doing is announcing an Avengers movie late, because they want to get in front of it. They want to announce it and give it enough runway for marketing, promo, and you have to think about all the merchandise that goes into these movies and all the theaters and the reservations and all that kind of stuff. The one thing they're not going to do is tell us an Avengers movie is coming out like as a secret surprise and be late to announce it. There's too many moving parts and things that need to be set in motion. A Doctor Strange 3 movie, now that is much more likely. It still would be a big deal of a movie, especially considering it's going to be folded into the Doomsday and Secret Wars saga. And we know Doctor Strange is going to have a big role in this story anyway. So it makes a lot more sense for it to be Doctor Strange 3 than it does to be Avengers Time Runs Out or Illuminati. Maybe it's Doctor Strange Time Runs Out or Doctor Strange Illuminati or something of that sort. It just sounds much more likely that Marvel would do that than be like, oh, surprise, we have an Avengers movie coming out. No, it's a business, bro. Come on. Oh, and, Marvel Zombies looks great. Like, I hate zombies, okay? I always thought I hated zombies. I just think they're corny. And then The Last of Us came out, and I loved that movie. The games, and then the show, even though the show's not as good as the games, whatever. It kind of got me to be like, okay, maybe I was kind of wrong about zombies. And Marvel Zombies looks great. But Anyway, we got through it pretty quick tonight for having a pretty full docket. So we are going to go back to DC for my man Hungry. Okay. So first we're going to get to his last comment on RD. I never doubted RDJ acting, but I still have people who still think that there will be a Tony Stark connection. Nothing aggravates me more than people who think there's going to be a Tony Stark connection. It's just like, I don't have a lot of patience or acceptance of stupidity. I just don't. And I think that, like, when they announced that RDJ was playing Doctor Doom, it broke people's brains. Okay? Because that was like what? Probably 14 months ago. I think it was like last year, June or July, they announced it. And there are still a lot of theories. Okay. I saw a theory 2 days ago. And like, people are, I don't know. My brain isn't broken. So I'm going to try to go through the thought process of the people whose brains were broken and figure out how they can't get their heads out of it. All right, hold on. I'm trying to be stupid. Give me a second. All right, I think I got it. So, because Tony Stark is played by Robert Downey Jr., and it's in the same universe that Tony Stark looked like Robert Downey Jr., they think because Doctor Doom is going to look like Robert Downey Jr., that there has to be a connection, and that, maybe Tony Stark was adopted Victor Von Doom or something like that. And then there's these theories about, they switched the brains, like, call it Frankenstein. All right. It's just a stupid theory. It's ridiculous. If you ever thought that, go home. Okay. So it's just ridiculous. Have you people never heard of a lookalike? Okay. I have a friend. This is a funny story. I have a friend. He sadly passed to cancer a couple years ago, but he was my best friend growing up. And for his bar mitzvah, at the time, the Austin Powers movies were like super popular. Britney Spears was the biggest pop star. And I kid you not, he told the entire school, he's like, Britney Spears and Mike Myers are going to be at my bar mitzvah. Okay. We get to the bar mitzvah. I kid you not, the kid had lookalikes. All right. But like, lookalikes are a thing, you think they're like, and it's a Marvel. They're not going to butcher their biggest villain and their biggest hero in the MCU history in the same move. Okay. And they told us he's playing Victor Von Doom. It's like, it's almost as dumb. Actually, no, this is definitely dumber, but it's similar to the people who are like, James Gunn told us that Robert Pattinson isn't going to be the DCU Batman, but I don't believe him. And then he told us another 10 times. And you have people who are like, yeah, I don't believe him. It's like, bro, come on. It's just so stupid. I just can't stand it. Is there... I am going to start collecting the dumbest theories, and we're going to start doing a segment on this show, and we're going to roast theories. We're going to absolutely butchered theories. That's what we're going to do. Okay. All right. I'm going to be honest. I'm not excited for Marvel Zombies because Marvel What If is all the same MCU, but alternate events. That's a fair take. It's a fair take. I think What If had some really good episodes, but the fact that they teased so much with The Watcher and didn't do anything with it, like, that pissed me off. And I love The Watcher as a character. Don't get me wrong. However, the big trope about The Watcher is that every time The Watcher makes an appearance, they say, the Watcher never gets involved. But anytime you see The Watcher, he's there because he's going to get involved. The story's not interesting if The Watcher sits on the sidelines. If you see the Watcher, I guarantee you he's going to get involved. He's going to interfere because he always does, okay? Kevco, welcome. I agree with Hungry on that. And that's a fair take. Listen, I'm going to watch it. I like that Spider-Man's in it. Like, I'm not expecting it to be great, but I do think the trailer looked good. I will say, like, and there are a lot of things they did that I didn't like about it, but I still loved Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I also loved X-Men 97. Marvel, I would argue, some of their best Disney Plus, like made for Disney Plus content, I would argue has been animated. However, it's probably a 50-50. Like, actually, maybe it's a little less because they did 3 seasons of What If. They did 1 Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man season. They did 1 X-Men 97. I would argue that Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man was great. X-Men 97 was excellent. And What If had some good episodes out of 3 full seasons. All right. So now we're going to go back to DC because Hungry missed it, and Hungry deserved to get it again. All right. I'm late, but I agree. It's such a dumb statement saying Green Lantern wouldn't work better as a movie just because there's too much lore. It's stupid. It's like Batman has a lot of lore. You don't expect to get... If you expect to get a character's full lore in one movie, you're stupid, okay? Like, it's dumb. It's like saying The Lord of the Rings should just be one movie. Like, oh, they couldn't fit 2 and 3 into, you know, it's so stupid. Harry Potter was what, 8 movies or something? I'm not that big of a Harry Potter guy, but anyway, all right. Honestly, I don't want Batgirl. Like, I'm good with just Batman, Nightwing, Robin, Damian, Catwoman, Red Hood appear sometimes. Batgirl is Oracle. Tim Drake sacrifice himself. So I really like the idea of having Batgirl as Oracle. By the way, so I got Batman #1 by Matt Fraction early, and it comes out tomorrow, but they did some really innovative stuff. Like, they are challenging Batman's ideology, the way he looks at criminals and villains, and if they even have a chance for redemption or change. And they're going to really challenge his bleak outlook on the world. The other thing that was really interesting was that Alfred as an AI, and warning, mild spoiler, I didn't say this on X or TikTok, but I'm going to say it here, is that one of the really cool things they did with Alfred as an AI, by the way, if you don't read comics and you're not aware, Alfred has been dead in comics continuity for like 10 years, but Alfred is an AI, and Alfred as the AI was in the field with Batman. Like, I knew that they were using Alfred as an AI, but seeing Batman like doing detective work with a hologram of Alfred was actually really, really cool. So that was exciting to see. Vandal Savage is back as the police commissioner, which you know that's going to be wild. It was really cool to see the cops and their outlook. And I'll tell you this, they're going to put Tim Drake through it. Like, he is going to have his trials and tribulations in this run. All right. So back to Green Lantern. And all right. Well, no, we're going to go to DC. So basically everything you missed on DC was, so I saw this video about Batman not debuting in Peacemaker, about Batman debuting in Peacemaker from Variant Comics, Aris Quinones. Anyway, I thought it was really legit. I thought he made really good points. And before I watched the video, I was like, no way this is happening. I watched the video. I was like, this is totally happening. I sent the video to Slav, and Slav is like, that's not happening because it's an adult-rated show. And they're not going to debut Batman in a show where they know not everyone's going to be able to watch it. And I was sold again. I thought Slav made a really good point. Anyway, everyone's saying the Batman Part 2 script is great. Filming begins late April 2026. I think it's kind of odd that they're starting to film in April 2026. They've delayed this movie so many times. If I were James Gunn, I would be like, we need to fast track some of this stuff because, like, we need this movie coming out December 2027. Okay. Like, you guys cannot miss that date. So I think that's a little odd, but whatever. Oh, and this I forgot to put on the docket, but what the hell is this guy's name again? One man again. Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell said that the script is extraordinary, but he has a small role apparently, which, by the way, is fine. He had a small role in the first one, but he still had a big impact on the movie, you know? So I didn't expect anything different. And so the big Green Lantern news, we got a lot of big Green Lantern stuff today. So basically, there is this comic book called Return to Oa. And Return to Oa is rumored to be the story that Lanterns is taking its inspiration from. However, DC does not want to outright say it or promote it as such because the writer, Gerald Jones, he was convicted in like 2010, I think, for Jeffrey Epstein type crimes. Okay. So DC is like, we don't really want to touch it. And oddly enough, I started looking for the comic immediately once I heard this. By the way, I've never heard of this comic before. So I tried to find it on DC's subscription app, Universe Infinite. They didn't have it. I tried to find it on Global Comics, which is more like a la carte service but they didn't have it either. And I only was able to find one single issue on eBay. And if you know anything about comics, you don't just read a single issue. So anyway, I did what research I could to find out about the story to be able to share the details with you guys. But what I will say is, you know, someone said to me recently, how do I say this? Basically took something I said, word for word, said it themselves, and then tried to tell me they did research. Well, you took exactly what I said, number one. This is me doing cliff notes on a story. Doing research on a story is reading the damn story, reading the comics, okay? Anyway, so this is my cliff notes of the story because, again, I wasn't able to find the comic to be able to read it. So anyway, Hal Jordan returns to Oa to stop a rogue guardian, Appa Ali Apsa, who's gone insane and is kidnapping cities from across the galaxy to build a twisted utopia. Hal is trapped in illusions of a quiet life with Rose Hardin, but breaks free with help from Jon Stewart and Guy Gardner. Using John's psychic link to Appa, Hal overwhelms him emotionally, forcing him to lose control. The Guardians return, taking Appa into custody and rebuild the core and the central battery, restoring order. And it sets the stage for Hal's renewed commitment to being a Green Lantern and leads into future core storylines. So, I mean, it sounds okay. Like, this is also why I don't like cliff notes of a story. Like, you can't tell really if a story is good or bad by just getting the cliff notes. A lot of stories in bullet note form don't sound good, and then you see the movie and it sounds great. And a perfect example for this was Superman. There were so many details about the Superman movie that we were reading about online, and everyone was like, oh, this sounds bad. Like the monkeys being bots online and talking shit. That sounds bad. Oh, the message that Lex Luthor is going to use from Superman's parents, that sounds bad. And then we saw it together in the movie in a cohesive unit as a package, and everyone loved it. So you can't experience a story by just getting cliff notes on ChatGPT. And if you're doing that and you're pretending you're reading stories, like, you are going to have tells. Anyway, it's such deceptive and manipulative bullshit. And like, I just have no patience for it. Okay. So, okay. James Hawes, the director of Lanterns, also said that Chris Mundy and Damon Lindelof, they have done things like Ozark, True Detective, and the script has got such wit, so much character, and it's like a buddy cop movie. True Detective, Fargo, No Country for Old Men, so naturalistic. It's a buddy cop movie and somebody flies. The other thing is that, so this actor, his name is, hold on, Garrett Dillahunt. He posted this, and as you could see, he is basically seeming like he's saying that he's playing Black Hand, which hopefully at some point we're going to get Blackest Night. And I think Comics Explained predicted that we're going to be getting Blackest Night. I really hope so. Blackest Night is the ultimate Green Lantern crossover event. Like, it is the GOAT. But if you want to read it, like you can't just skip to Blackest Night. You really do need to read the entire Jeff Johns Green Lantern run. All right, so let's get to some of these comments. Going a bit out of the order on comments because I'm trying to keep it on topic, but we're going to get to all the ones that I haven't. So don't worry if you have a comment and you think I skipped it. I didn't. Could be saving Blackest Night for a movie. That's a great point. And that would make a lot of sense, by the way, because Blackest Night as a TV show, like, unless it's Game of Thrones level budget and runtimes, like, it doesn't make sense. So, and if you did Lanterns and you built the Lanterns fan base up to then do a Blackest Night movie, like, that would be so epic. I could easily see the Justice Society taking place of the dead Justice League for the DCU Blackest Night. That's an interesting take. That's a really interesting take. I actually think that would be really cool because it's at least different characters, like, and we're going to actually have the Justice League. So, yeah. To be the Black Guardians, that would be sick. Jason Todd coming back in Blackest Night. Maybe Hal Jordan if he dies in Lanterns. That is genius. That would be crazy to see Hal Jordan as a Black Guardian. Oh, my God. All right. I can't wait for this movie. I'm glad we're finally hearing some more details about it. Like, I was so excited to put the Lanterns on the thumbnail for tonight. Have you seen the Matt Reeves? Let me see. Do we have a good Batman photo? No, we don't. All right. Have you seen the Matt Reeves interview where he talks about Robin? I think it was an interview with Josh something. Oh, I didn't. I definitely want to watch. Probably Josh Horowitz from Happy, Sad, Confused. He's got a great podcast. I really like that podcast. I've listened to it when I liked the guest feature. So I am upset that I missed the Matt Reeves one. I got to listen to that. But no, I haven't. Is there something specific from it I should be aware of? Or are you just asking if I've seen it? But I do have to ask, I know you don't want Dick Grayson in the Batman Part 2, but let's say James really does give Matt 100% creative freedom and Reeves uses Grayson Robin. Would you be fine with it? I would prefer to not have Dick Grayson in the Batman Part 2, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. I do think that they could deliver a good movie with Dick Grayson in the movie. I just think the movie would have a better chance to be a better movie without Dick Grayson. I just think Dick Grayson doesn't fit into the realism of the Batman universe. For Batman to do everything he does and live the life he does, and then be able to train a kid to be his sidekick, like the amount of training that goes into it, it just doesn't make sense. And just thinking about Batman doing everything he does with a sidekick, like that just doesn't seems less realistic to me as well. I do like Dick Grayson as a character, by the way. I'm not a Dick Grayson hater. And I don't think I hate any of the Robins actually at all. I actually like all of them as characters, but I just get annoyed sometimes when it's like Batman and 4 Robins, and it's just like so much. But I will say, I do know some people who claim to be Nightwing diehards, and they don't even read Nightwing comics. And I don't claim to be a Nightwing diehard, and I've read more Nightwing comics, or more Bat Family comics, I should say. So, I guess you could say I'm a Bat Family fan. I've read the Ultimate Bat Family run, which is, what is it? James Tynion Detective Comics. Starts with I think it's called Knights of Monster Men. Pretty cool run. But again, it's all Bat Family. And then Clayface was part of the Bat Family. And I did start to like Clayface as a character from that comic run. I don't think Clayface is the best move for DC, but I think James Gunn, I wonder if James Gunn is going to really surprise everyone with the Clayface movie, or if we're going to watch the movie and still think it was a bad decision. If Batman makes a cameo in Peacemaker, is that a good sign that The Brave and the Bold is a lot closer to being done than we thought? Probably, because I think one of the biggest things about that is, first of all, the casting of Batman is so tricky. The casting of this Batman is so tricky because whoever they choose is going to be measured up against Robert Pattinson like crazy. And just think about our world on social media. But the other thing is the fact that if they're going to put Batman in this movie, I have to imagine they want the follow-up gap, the time gap between Batman's debut in the DCU and Batman the Brave and the Bold to not be too large. They don't want to introduce Batman today and then have us wait 4 years for the first Batman movie, or the next time we see a legitimate Batman story with that Batman that we just got introduced. Speed is a big factor in you make a character like that have their debut cameo. You don't want fans forgetting about that. Not that they're going to forget, but you get what I'm saying. Wait, the Batman Part 2 is December 2027. Yeah, it should be October 1st. Yeah, I think you guys are right, actually. I think Batman Part 2 release date. Yep, you guys are right. It's October 1st, 2027. Okay, so even closer, though. You get what I'm saying? It seems like that's a lot of time, but seeing how slow these things have been moving, it's crazy. I want to see a Batman movie with a snowy Christmas vibe, Gotham City, similar to Batman Arkham Origins. I would love that too, by the way. I just don't want Mr. Freeze. But a winter vibe, which went so hard in, and I don't even like the Batman Returns, but it did look cool in the snow. I want to make sure we're not missing anything. Oh, there's one other thing. We'll get to that. When can we expect a Lanterns teaser, since it comes out early 2026? I would say I would expect to see something around between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I would say around there. Could be saving Blackest Night for a movie. Hell yeah, bro. That would be hard as hell. I could easily see the Justice. Yeah, we did that one. Yeah, he talks about Robin and then says he might appear in the Batman. I didn't realize he said that on Happy Sad Confused. That's crazy. I got to look that up right now. That reads that. No way. That's actually pretty cool. I'd be curious to see what he does with Dick Grayson. Maybe he really is doing the Court of Owls storyline, and he really is taken from that comic book. That was mainly Damian, but still, maybe he's going to do it with Dick Grayson instead. What you said about how Dick in Reeves Part 2 is what Matt kind of talks about in that Josh interview, which is why I bring up how maybe Robin not working in the Reeveverse is something he wants to tackle. So you think he wants to take it on because you think he sees it as a challenge? Which could be – a lot of people are like that. A lot of successful people, they see a challenge and they want to take it on. You know, that's pretty cool. I just hope he pulls it off because, I think the Batman was amazing and I can't wait for the sequel. I actually just watched it again this past weekend. Oh, and that one thing I think we missed was so basically – hey, James, have you considered changing the DC title bumper at the beginning of the project? And he basically said this is their MGM lion. So they're sticking with it, which I think makes sense. Superman, you need someone colorful. Like, as much as I love Batman, Batman doesn't make sense for this. Like, you need someone colorful, someone that's eye-catching. So it makes sense. Josh be asking questions we all want answered all these time to all these big-time people. Yeah, he really does. I'm curious to how he got to where he is. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be there because the guy is that kid Josh Horowitz is talented as fuck. But I just like, how do you get to the point where you have a podcast where everyone's coming on? You have to start somewhere, With the Batman Part 2, he may not even have to use Dick since it's Elseworld. He could do pretty much anything, right? Yeah, that's a good point. He wouldn't have to necessarily use Dick Grayson because Dick Grayson was the first Robin. He could decide to go Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Damian Wayne. He could choose whoever the hell he wants, And the only thing I really care about in that aspect is that the characterization is right. Like, it could be Elseworld, but at least give us the correct characterization. Unless you're doing something that's like completely different, but if it's still supposed to be Batman, I just want the right characterization. But I will say, and I love the Batman, but like after the Batman epic crime saga is over, I don't want any more realism Batman. Like, I want Batman movies that are described as a comic book come to life. If Hal doesn't survive Lanterns, could you see them bring in Kyle Rayner later and have Kyle be to Jon Stewart what Nightwing and Supergirl is to Batman and Superman? Yeah, I could see that. Kyle Rayner can be pretty cool in some stories. He's definitely been cool in the newer run. So I could see that. And I don't know if they're going to kill Hal off. I think originally I thought that, but now I'm starting to think that they are leaning into the character family thing. They've indicated they're doing that for Batman. They're clearly doing that with Superman and the Superman saga. It just seems like that family, that each character is just going to have a lot of adjacent versions of their characters around them, whether it's the Bat family, whether it's Superman and Supergirl and Connor Kent, and Hal and Jon Stewart. If Matt did do a Robin, I can't see him not choosing Dick Grayson, because imagine recreating the death of the Graysons in a darker, gritty world. It's too big to pass up. Yeah, that would go hard as hell. That would be really cool, actually. I'm also curious, like, what I really want to see is what the Nightwing emblem would look like on a suit in the Matt Reeves world. Like that, I think Nightwing's logo is so cool looking. By the way, someone made a really good point to me today about the new Batman logo, which is, it was like the new Batman logo kind of looks like the Nightwing logo, and it does. I loved watching Hal, John, Guy, and Kyle and Jeff Johns run together. That's why I want to see Kyle. Yeah, they're great. They're my favorite, man. Oh, I can't wait for that show. I think that is like going to be a big turning point, just because people don't know that they're going to love these characters as much as they're going to love these characters. And because of that, like, because people aren't expecting to love the Green Lanterns as much as they're going to love them, just means that Lanterns are going to absolutely exceed their expectations, because they're not expecting much, because they don't know any better, and that's why I always say that. Oh, wait a minute. I think I forgot something. I got one more thing. Oh my God. So, where is it? Give me a second. So, I didn't write down the quote, but Channing Tatum, Gambit. So basically, Channing Tatum said, I think it was to Variety, that he is not going to be doing the Cajun accent in Avengers Doomsday, and that the Russos like comedy, but they understand that Avengers Doomsday isn't Deadpool, so they're going to play that aspect of his Gambit down compared to Deadpool. And this is such a W. This is so refreshing to hear. And I didn't think that this wasn't going to be the case, but like, we can't have that kind of scene in Avengers Doomsday. And that's kind of how they handled Thor. Like with Thor, it felt different from Taika Waititi's Thor. And, the Russos' Gambit needs to feel different from Sean Levy's Gambit. You know what I mean? So I think that was a really good thing. But other than that, that's all I got. So if anyone's got nothing else, we'll call it a night. Thanks again for showing up, Kevin and Hungary. As always, I appreciate you guys being here, supporting, and your time. I always have a blast, and you guys are. And if that's it, we'll call it a night, and I will see you guys on Thursday. Have a good night.